New data from the US indicates the labor market has slowed down as uncertainty grows over President Trump's economic policies. Now, the US added just 22,000 jobs in August. Economists had actually expected more than 3 times that number. Additionally, the Bureau of Labor Statistics revised its previous figures. July's job gains were adjusted up from 73,000 to 79,000, while June's figure was downgraded from a reported gain of 14,000 to a loss of 13,000 jobs, the first monthly decline in nearly 5 years. Let's get some expert analysis on this with Abigail Hall. She's an associate professor in economics at the University of Tampa in the US. Welcome to DW News, Abigail. Now, what's so worrying about these job numbers?
So there are a few different things. So of course, we are looking at the overall job growth, which is coming in well under expectation. When asked to describe these numbers, the only thing I really have to say is they're not pretty. They're not as ugly as they could be, but they're certainly not very pretty to look at. So we're concerned about what we're seeing in terms of growth. Some of the revisions that we've seen are also particularly concerning. And then we're also seeing the U.S. unemployment rate tick up for the second month in a row to the highest rate that it's been since 2021.
And what's causing this?
So there are a few different things that people are pointing to, but at the end of the day, it's largely about uncertainty surrounding what policies are directly impacting various aspects of the economy. So we're looking at things like tariffs. We are looking at things like what the Federal Reserve is going to do, and then also immigration policy. So businesses that rely on migrant labor, it's unclear what those policies are going to look like. And so what we're really starting to see is that people aren't really necessarily hiring people, but they're definitely not hiring people either. People are adopting this kind of wait and see approach when it comes to the economy, and we're now starting to see those results very clearly.
And you get the sense that the US economy is in long-term trouble, or is this only temporary? I know you say people are in kind of wait and see territory, but do we get a sense of how long this will be for?
So, of course, all these things are remarkably difficult for us to predict. And of course, we hope that it's short term. But one of the things that I think we really are starting to see is that we have the potential for some serious long-term consequences. So the uncertainty really does not help in that regard. And so I'm not particularly optimistic that that's going to resolve anytime soon. And then as long as these policies, particularly the trade policies and the immigration policies, remain so in flux and really just hostile toward trade and immigration, I don't anticipate that these numbers would improve anytime soon.
And it's not just what's behind the numbers, it's the reporting of the numbers themselves. Last month, when Trump didn't like the job market numbers, he fired the statistics boss. What impact do you think actions like this have?
So it's certainly not good for the reputation or the reliability of these figures. So the figures that come out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics are utilized by a variety of different agencies, from the Federal Reserve to foreign governments to private companies, to make decisions. One of the things that really sticks out, though, about this jobs report is that the president fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because he didn't like what was in last month's report. But this report, now that head is no longer there, is still not painting a particularly rosy picture. They were revised numbers for July up by 6,000, but then, as you mentioned, they also revised the numbers for June down to cut 13,000 jobs. So it doesn't really seem as though the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics was exactly the problem. The numbers aren't lying.
And we know that President Trump has been in conflict with the US Federal Reserve for months now, calling on it to cut interest rates. Now, is this cut more likely in light of the job figures, and what impact would that have?
So, in light of these sluggish job figures, we seem pretty reassured at this point that the Federal Reserve is likely to cut rates. Now, many people have been suggesting that the Fed should cut its rates by 50 basis points. I don't anticipate that that's likely the outcome. Something more like 25 is probably more realistic. But this certainly does provide motivation for the Fed to cut interest rates. At the same time, however, the Fed's been reluctant to do so because they're trying to wait and see again what's coming down the pike with these trade policies. And so the Federal Reserve is in a particularly awkward position, but I think it's likely at this point we'll see a rate cut in September.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Economics professor Abigail Hall, thank you very much for your insights.